Milsurp Garage, back with, you guessed it, military rifle. We had to do it. We had to do it. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, this is the Gewehr 98. There is nothing I can tell you about this thing that isn't posted to 8 billion YouTube videos, or even Wikipedia has an excellent article on this thing that's way more informative than I'm going to be like. I could look to brush up to be able to give you guys some information, and I'm reading over it and I'm like, I would only be able to touch on what these guys are talking about. If you really want to see a cool video on this, Ian from ForgottenWeapons.com has both this rifle and a sniper version of it. It's and he's pretty damn knowledgeable. But what I can tell you is what, in my opinion, from owning one of these, is just so awesome about it. So let's do that. This was my goal, actually, from the very beginning, was just like, let me just describe what my ideas of ownership are, and then it just turned into every single gun is just so awesome. It doesn't sound like you're giving a review anymore on whether or not it pays to own it. You're just kind of giving a breakdown on each one's features, because they're all awesome. But this guy, I had been looking for one of these for a long time, and what finally sold me on it was, now you guys that are knowledgeable, you tell me if I got ripped off. This thing doesn't even fit on the table. But I had an opportunity to pick this one up. It has an anchor on here, and I had been told that this was a mark for, that this is the unit number here, not the serial number, and that this is a Navy mark, and that along with the regular German markings. See, these things, this one is 1916. That's the date here on the receiver of this guy. It's 1916. So this is way before these typical German markings that you see on things. When you think of German markings, you think of swastikas, Waffenants, you think of stuff like that. I mean, to the layman, this is way before that. This is World War One was a totally different. It was, I think, do they call it Imperial German markings? Is what they call them. It was this King Wilhelm. You'll see like there's a W and a crown all over everything. And I think it was King Wilhelm who was who that marking was. Like the gun ownership was. But this marking right here. Someone tell me if I got it's there, and there's also one on the receiver, so it's not just on the wood like it would have just been a stock from one. There's an anchor here too, with an M. This is made in the Danzig, the Mauser's Danzig plant, which I think wasn't Danzig. That was kind of like up by Poland around there. Might have actually been part of the. I think that in World War II, that was part of the ground that was fought over, that Germany just kind of acquired from Poland. Don't know what was going on in 1916, if that was actually German territory at that point. I suppose it was. Right, and then maybe after World War I, they had to relinquish that as part of the Treaty of Versailles. So that's why that was some territory that they kind of took back or something. I think I'm pretty right on that. See what happens when you try to throw down history and you're not really sure of it. I could easily be debunked in 2 seconds by just looking at another video, but that's what I think. This rear sight here, this gets a lot of attention. I think, what the hell is the guy's name? Vizier or something like that? Let me see. Did I write that down? No, I didn't. But it was named after the guy that created it, and they call it the roller coaster sight. It goes way up in the air like that. They apparently, when they switched over from the Patron 88, from the M88 ammo, which was the rounded tipped ammo. I don't have any of that, but they switched over to the Spitzer ammo, which is the modern type looking pointed bullet. The bullets could travel much further, so they had this idea that, obviously World War I, that was the first big, huge world war, and when these guns were manufactured right before that, this is something new to them. All of a sudden, when World War I was coming, bullets had completely changed. And they thought that these bullets were going to be able to fly, where this is in meters, 2,000 meters, you know what I mean? So the sight's way up in the air like this. They were mistaken, though, because just because the bullets could go further doesn't necessarily mean that changed how warfare was fought. And it couldn't even go below 400 meters, and most of the action was fought well below that, So these things, I guess, during wartime for the Germans, they would have to aim incredibly low, right? Wouldn't it be low? Let me see. So it would be higher, right? They would be missing above everything, so they would have to aim incredibly low for anything that was less than 400 meters. What's interesting here is you see there's like an arrow that points at the 4 there. Can you see that? And then if you look, so it goes up to 6, 8. So say I put it on 14. If you look inside, it's you read it from the back. There's also numbers on the top, and you would read it from the back of the sight here, which would be, see, it's right up to the 14. You see that? So the numbers, when you look at them here, they don't coincide on here because they're read from a different spot, if that makes any sense. But this thing's, it's pretty much numbers matching. It's got a lot of 20s all over it, and 1120s are like the main number, 1120. But you see, these are all, it's force matched. These are all overstamped. You could see it, But it wasn't something that was done by like somebody that was selling it. It was obviously like a arsenal refurb at some point where they force matched a lot of stuff. Not everything, because the 1120 here is just a normal stamping, and a lot of the 20 stamps are just normal. They're even in the screws. But it looks like the receiver, the bolt might have come from a different gun and been force matched onto it. So what do we have here? We have this, whoa, we're out of frame. We have this incredibly long rifle. Luckily, this guy came with a cleaning rod. I got lucky there. This is the bayonet mount. This is the front barrel band here that has a hook here that's like for a parade sling. These are the buttons here that release these bands. Again, here's the rear barrel band that has the sling swivel in it. Again, another one of these springy bars here to release that. This is the top wood right here. There's a cross bolt that goes through here, kind of like a stability thing to hold everything together. This is the receiver ring here. There's a thumb notch here, so that this cock on opening. When you push down the stripper clip here, there's a notch here that your thumb would sit in to push the rounds home. That over stripper clip does not. Bolt is not held open on the last shot. The bolt will close over the follower, the magazine follower. There's like a little indentation in it back here that allows the bolt to ride over it. This is the bolt release here to remove the bolt. And what else? This is the safety back here. This is the fire position. This is the safe position, but the rifle, well, the rifle will still function. The bolt will still move and function. And then this is the position that just locks it all up completely. Won't move, no trigger, nothing. In this position too, again, no trigger pull. But you can unload it. This would be the position for like unloading it, manipulating it. And then that's the fire position. And here's the magazine back here. I could show you you take the point of a bullet. I'm going to use a wooden dowel here, but you would use the point of a bullet to push in here and push this back. If you had a serious malfunction, you'd have to pull that around and pull this out, you dump everything out. Hope if you had some kind of like jam that you couldn't clear. And this is how most of the magazines of the Mausers worked when they started using these 5-round magazines. They were very, very similar. The floor plate, the spring, and the follower. And does it go together again? In and then forward. Yep, there we go. And they have this kind of unique sling swivel here. You guys have probably seen this if you looked at any of these rifles. This is the way that the sling connected, and it's removable here. And for some reason, from some reasons to carry it certain ways, or that parade sling, you'd have to move it up to here. You can connect it there. Not really sure about never had the sling for this thing. I always like original stuff. They sell plenty of aftermarkets, but I always liked original stuff. But this is so old that original ones are a fortune, or they're falling apart. So there's like a stock disc on here. Not 100% sure what these things are for. Usually they have unit markings on them, but I've never seen these with anything stamped on them, so I don't know. The unit markings are right here, stamped directly into the wood, I believe. And just a solid steel butt plate. Yep. So what's awesome about these? They're heavy as hell. So it really mitigates the recoil, and just the functioning of them, the bolt, the smoothness of the bolt is unmatched. These things this is just, how could you argue when you hear that these things have been called the greatest bolt action rifle ever made? It's just it's just, how could you argue with that? They are so awesome. Now books, you get 1,000,000 books on Mausers. I'm going to pull out a few of mine here for you. I'll show you some of my Mauser books. That's what we could use to take up the time. That one's kind of K98K only. This Mauser Bolt Action Rifles by Olson. This one is incredible. I love this book. This is a great book, and he does start way in the back with the K9, with the Gewehr 98, or even earlier with the some of the Mausers that were made for South America. That's a book of wealth and knowledge. This is Ball's book, Mauser Military Rifles of the World. This one's falling apart. I've read it so much, but I could find every rifle in this thing except for these naval marked ones here, or whatever. I can't seem to find. It's almost like as if there is no such thing. I don't know, that M in the anchor might mean something completely different. I always loved this one, Mechanical Variations of the Mauser Bolt Action Military Rifles by Wingate. If you look at any of my past videos, you see I like to compare the Mausers. This is kind of like where I got that idea. This guy breaks down the mechanical operations and differences of all of them. It's a pretty awesome book. Definitely. And this guy does the same thing. The Mauser Bolt Actions, M91 through M98 by Knunhausen. And it says a shop manual. It's very interesting. This is I think this book is like humorous too, and it's pretty cool to see how these different guys analyze these and break them down. If you're really into Mausers, this book, this is a must-have right here. This is a must-have. Get this before anything else. So those are the books I love to read, and none of them can tell me anything about this M with the anchor, if that is indeed a military marking or not. And what else do we have here? Gewehr 98. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I'm sure someone will correct me. There's nothing that's more corrected on the planet Earth than the pronunciation of this rifle. And look at the wood on this thing, huh? That's a lot of years It looks like somebody over here was marking off kills. Not 100% sure what was going on back there, but somebody was tallying something. And there's these W's with the crown over it. See that there? The small ones in the metal are hard to see. I can't really point those out to you, but the and then there's like a script letter A over here. Can you see that? The markings are interesting. There's that like overstruck serial number. See that? How it's like overstruck. There's the S. So that S means that the rifle is definitely made for these Spitzer bullets. So, you could safely fire this thing. You probably don't want to go crazy using some ammo that you find that's like super high powered 8mm. I mean, as long as it's like just some regular military ammo, you'll be okay. I like that M75 sniper ammo. I think I've done a video on that stuff. Is this it? This isn't it. Where is it? Somewhere. Oh, what a shame. I should have had that out. But whatever, I would just be showing you 8mm ammo. Big deal. But it's I can't even find it anymore. There was one company, I don't even remember who. Was it Widener's or who the hell was selling that? Somebody was selling that M75 Yugo sniper ammo in these little white boxes. Man, that stuff is it's dirty burning. I mean, I think it's corrosive, but it's very high quality ammo, so that's probably what you got to worry about more than anything else. I wouldn't worry so much about corrosive or non-corrosive. Just clean it. When you take it home, clean it out. Who would leave the residue in there anyway? And with the amount that you're going to fire one of these, it's not like you're going to go every weekend. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't really worry much about the corrosiveness. Just clean it well. But I would worry more about ammo that wasn't corrosive but was just not high quality ammo. You don't know if you could have around that's a little juiced up in the mix. Some might be weak, some might be strong. That would probably be worse than anything else. You would just probably want to have to make sure that your ammo is high quality, consistent, and reliable. You know what I mean? Reliable, that they weren't overloaded, like some, I don't know. I don't even want to say. It would sound, if I just pulled out like some nationality, it would be, it would sound like I'm picking on them. But, this 8mm ammo is around everywhere. Like a lot of nations used it, so they were all making their own military surplus. So a lot of times you find cheap ammo from different areas that are 8mm. Sometimes you find steel case stuff. You've seen that out there. And that I would worry about even more. Even if it's not corrosive, I would worry that it's not really what's the word? I forgot the word. Consistent. All right. So you guys probably wanted to see a Milsurp, so there we go. I figured I'd bring one out. This thing's a monster. It's super strong. There's 3 locking lugs to this bolt. Let's break it out. I thought I was done, but I'm not done. There's 2 locking lugs here. You see them? And man, those fit into like mortises inside this big steel ring here. Oof. But just in case that, and they're way up by the bolt head here too. They learned their lesson a long time ago, like the Swiss and stuff, putting bolt locking lugs in the back, leaving the whole bolt to, not be supported, but supporting it way up here at the front. Oh, sorry, way up here at the front. And that, if that wasn't enough, there's another one back here that slides into a recess in here, in the top of this ring. And this is plenty strong. You know what I mean? But that was just a just in case, because you can see it goes, that slides down into there. That locking lug goes in there, and these 2 in here. Oof, how strong that is. See, the locking lugs are up and down. There's one on the bottom, one on the top. That's plenty strong right there. Plenty strong. Straight bolt handle here. No bent bolt handle like they did later on. So, Yeah, there we are. The Goo 98. That's what I'm going to call it. I'm just going to call it the Goo. This way, nobody can correct my pronunciation. I just call it the Goo. And that's that. This thing, it was not in the greatest of shape. There's a lot of hours of working on this thing to bring it back the way I liked it without affecting the patina, without going too far, you know. There's some pitting underneath here and stuff like that, and I didn't want to go crazy. I just slowed down whatever might have been eating it away, or you know, may have stopped it completely since it's, you know, oiled and nice. It wasn't like actively rusting, but there was some pitting. I wouldn't really think it would compromise its integrity, but I think I gotta think if I've ever fired this thing. I think I went to the range. I might have put a few rounds through it if I was busy with something else. If I had to guess, I would say when I first got it, I did put some rounds through it. A couple of stripper clips maybe. But was busy on another project doing something, so I didn't really spend the day with it. But it's definitely one that needs to be used up a little bit on an afternoon. So we're gonna get out there with this thing too. Should just do like a huge, like, 4-hour live feed from the range. Man, that would be great. I wish I could be a part of that. And that's that. That's the German World War I battle rifle right there for you. And yeah, we'll see what we'll do next time. I'm gonna mix it up now. It's gonna be all over the place. I think next time up we'll revisit Mr. John Browning and his little fights with Winchester. Here's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna go to John Browning, back to John Browning, and we're gonna deal with his relationship with Winchester when they were on good terms. How about that? Because we've talked so much about it. I feel bad. I don't always be talking about when John Browning was fighting with Winchester. It seems like we were just bouncing around all through that phase for a while. But let's, before they had the falling out, that's what we'll do. We'll talk a little bit about what John Browning had going on with Winchester when they were hand in hand and having fun together making guns. All right, guys. See you next time. All right, wait a minute. Don't go anywhere. I don't know how I could forget the coolest freaking bayonet in the world. It's one of my favorite bayonets. All right, I don't have a scabbard for this thing, but this is the bayonet that goes with this rifle. Look at the shape of that freaking thing. It's just the oddest shape. They called it a butcher blade bayonet. But this is the information that I have on it. So I'll throw that out there. Pause on that and look at it. But it's nice, the date on it is 17, so it matches up like for the rifle. And if you ever see these tags I have on my bayonets, which my bayonets, by the way, are in the drawers right here in my cabinet right here. And if you ever see one of those tags and you'll see a number on it here, I'm going to show you what that corresponds to. It corresponds to what might very well be another one of the greatest books ever, is Paul Keisling, Bayonets of the World, the complete edition. Now this thing, it gets a lot of slack because they're not color pictures, they're more like drafting photos, but that's kind of like what this book is for, is like an identification guide. I could do a whole video just on this book, but just suffice to say, maybe I will do that. Like in the back, you can search for bayonets just by length. So this is an index that just goes by length to the millimeter, you know what I mean? So, and then there's an index on markings, index on manufacturers, indexes for a million different ways to find it by country, by rifle model, excuse me. Well, so this one, it says 258. So, what do you think that means, 258? I don't know why I'm getting this happens all the time. Low battery message. I know that doesn't affect what's on the screen, but it bothers me. So, if we go to page 258 in the book here, I don't know, was it page 258 or was it number 258? No, it's page 258 because the book doesn't go in order by these numbers because they're just all over the place because of the way the indexes work. So 258, page 258, and then here it is. Is it? No. So wait, it does go by. I'm messing this video up. I have to find 258. So then I guess what I have to do is go to where it's broken down by just by number. Does it do that anywhere? No. Index by country. So how would I do that? I don't know. How would I find 258? It's number 258. Index by manufacturers. Somewhere it has to have them just by number, right? Otherwise, why would I have done that? Index on length. Index on country. Here it is. So this is how I find it then. So I go to 258, which is on page 224. I should have wrote the page on here while I was at it. I guess I didn't want to get confused. And then meanwhile, here I am confused. And then bang, there it is, 258. That's it. And if you see, there's like a few different kinds of these here. There's like one here. So you really have to, this is why this book really breaks it down nicely. You get to the exact one, what your scabbard is supposed to look like or can look like. There's obviously two different kinds here. And see, it shows there was one here that actually has like a saw blade on it, and that this was, mine was this one with that saw blade cut off. And you can see that they actually just ground this out of there where it was supposed to have a saw blade. So that's interesting, right? Anyway, get this book. You could break down all of your bayonets with it and have them cataloged. And then the bayonet is interesting with these is that it has a recess here for the cleaning rod. So these bayonets, they always eat the cleaning rod and they go onto that H-shaped bayonet mount. And my God, if this rifle wasn't long enough, then with the bayonet attached, I mean, I'm banging into the wall over here trying to get the tip of the bayonet in frame. Jeez. Oh my God. We're gonna need a bigger boat. That's what we're dealing with here. This thing was just an absolute animal. It's like you could definitely use it as a spear. So that's all. I just wanted to get that bayonet in there. It wouldn't have been fair to not include the S98/05 funny looking NA. The butcher blade. Original sawback blade removed. Yep. Alright guys, thanks for retuning in for the rest of my nonsense. And I'll see you guys next time. I got to remember to get these bayonets out when I got the military rifles. I've been doing so many non-military rifles, I just completely forgot about bayonet. But it won't happen again, I promise. See you all.